This is the final chapter of The Invisible Battle, and I wanted to finish this series slightly different because over the last 5 chapters we have spoke about a lot of different things, different behaviours, different thoughts, and different ways that we can end up fighting battles that no one can actually see. But the more I thought about all of those, I realised something. They're not actually separate problems and they're all connected. And I want to show you exactly what I mean. Because I think most of these battles start here. Not with what actually happens, but with the stories that we tell ourselves on what happens. For example, something may not go to plan. Like you make a mistake or someone doesn't reply. You compare yourself to someone else, or maybe you don't achieve what you wanted. And suddenly your brain doesn't just process that event. It will create an entire meaning around it. And this is where everything that we've spoken about will start to connect. Because when you start to believe that something is wrong, you start to look for ways to protect yourself from feeling it. Sometimes it's just overthinking or potentially even comparison. Or sometimes it's you're trying to predict everything that's going to happen and that you need to have control. Because underneath a lot of these behaviours, there's usually something that we're afraid of. Like being rejected, judged or left behind. And the second you allow your brain to start feeling like it's being threatened, it's going to try and protect you. And that is where control comes in. And you start thinking, if I can just control this, and if I can plan enough, and if I can work hard enough, and just make sure that everything is right, then I won't have to feel that fear. But here's the problem. The more that you try and control everything, the more you start to notice everything that you can't control. And suddenly that's going to make you feel so exhausted. Because you're not only now trying to manage just your life, but every possible outcome of it. And sometimes when all of that becomes too much, we don't control more, we do the opposite. We end up pulling away and distancing ourselves. We stop replying and we convince ourselves that we don't care. We create space because if we can convince ourselves that if we don't get too close, we can't get hurt. And this is the strange thing about the invisible battle. The behaviours here can look completely different, but they're sometimes trying to achieve the same thing. Protect from feeling something that I don't want to feel. And then there's another way that we try and escape that feeling. We achieve. Then we chase. We set another goal. Because maybe if I can look successful enough or I can become better, finally I'll feel good enough. And sometimes you get there, which should be the exact moment that you finally feel satisfied. But you don't. Or at least not for very long. So you decide to move it and then make another goal, which is another achievement and another version of yourself. And suddenly, the finish line is always somewhere else. And when you put all of that together, that is the invisible battle. You have a thought, and that thought creates fear. You try to control it or to protect yourself from it, and you'll go and chase something that you think will finally make you feel better. And when you achieve it, you get a little bit of relief. And then the feeling comes back. So you start the entire cycle all over again. But here's the part that I think is the most important. None of this necessarily means that there's something wrong with you. These behaviours didn't just appear out of nowhere. At some point, they probably helped you or protected you. Even if they just helped you cope or achieve something, or helped you survive situations that felt difficult. But something that once protected you can eventually become something that's exhausting you. And if you don't recognise this cycle, you can spend years trying to fix each individual behaviour without spending any time looking at what is actually underneath it. So I don't think the answer is to stop thinking, stop caring, stop wanting more or setting new goals. It's about becoming aware of the pattern. So the next time that you feel yourself entering this cycle, pause for one moment and ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? What is it I'm trying to control? What am I trying to prove? Or what if I'm already enough? Because remember, the goal was never to become perfect. And maybe it was never to eliminate every insecurity. Maybe it's simply learning how to recognise the battle before you become the battle. So you can still want more and you can still have goals. You can still grow and you can still become a better version of yourself. But you don't have to hate who you are today in order to get there. You can want more without feeling less. So if there's one thing I want you to take from this entire series, it's this. Maybe you were never the problem. Maybe you were just trying to protect yourself from a story that was never true. And maybe the real freedom isn't becoming someone else. It's finally becoming okay with who you already are. So you don't have to fight yourself anymore. So if you haven't yet gone and watched the entire series of The Invisible Battle, make sure you go and check out each episode to understand what point is most relevant to you. Make sure to leave a comment below and let me know if you have been impacted by the series so far, because I assure you, you are not as alone as you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so the next one finds you when you need it. My name's Harley. Do the work, trust the process, and I'll see you in the next one.